Hey guys, it's Cyrus of Chaos. Today I'm going to be going over my predictions for the Olympic men's saber racket. Even though I'm on vacation, I'm still very much paying attention to these things. Before I talk to you guys about all that, I just wanted to mention something beforehand, which is that until you actually experience it for yourself, the Olympics puts a kind of pressure on you that you can't possibly understand. I'm saying that as someone who has not experienced it myself, but so many times I've seen someone who is a favorite or a top seed go into their first or their second or even their third Olympics and just way underperform. So that is something that you have to take into account. Certain people deal with that pressure extremely well. Like Salagi has consistently been able to deal with that over and over to the point that he has a 16-1 win record at the Olympics and 3 individual gold medals under his belt. Uh, Garozzo is another good example of that. He went to 2 Olympics, I think, and got a gold medal in one and a silver medal in the other. So very much knows how to deal with that kind of pressure. So with that in mind, the reason I'm bringing this up is because certain people who have never been to the Olympics are going to be complete wild cards. You just don't know how someone is going to behave, even if they're number one in the world, if they've never been to an Olympics before. There's no way to know. So, with all that out of the way, let's start by discussing the preliminary rounds. So, in the round of 64, you have Francois Cachon and Pascual Di Tella from Argentina. So these two actually have fenced each other twice, and most recently in a pool bout, but the one that's really relevant is this one from Pan Am Championships a few seasons ago, where Pascual beat Francois 15-9. We don't have much other data to go on because these guys have never been to the Olympics before. So, with the absence of any data at all, I'm going to just pick the person who was able to win the last matchup here. So, the next one is at the bottom. Gibran Zaya and Mohamed Fatouhi. They fenced in a pool once. So this one is just totally random. You have no idea how these two will interact with each other. The main factor here is that left's seeding is higher than right's, which means even more because left is coming from the Asian zone and right is coming from the Pan American zone. Pan American championships are a lot easier than Asian championships. I would give an edge here to Fatouhi. Now that we got that out of the way, Ziad is a newcomer to the Olympics. There's no way to predict how well he's going to do, but you have to assume that the world number one is going to do well in the early rounds at the Olympics. That said, sometimes the first time that you fence in the Olympics, you're so like hyped up and crazy that you tend to lose matches that you shouldn't. Yakomenko losing to Pancho Paskov is a really good example of that. And for that reason, I'm actually going to give the edge to Pascual here. Sorry, Ziad. And I've decided to do that specifically because in this situation, even if Pascual was super nervous going into his first match, this will be his second match. So he already has a chance to get those nerves and jitters out of the way before he goes up against a very strong fencer. And so that could be enough to get a little bit of a jump on somebody. We'll see, especially since Pascual's a real fighter. He doesn't go in super relaxed. He goes in wanting to kill you every single time. So, Sarn and Pianfetti. This is a very interesting matchup between two fencers, both of whom have never gone to an Olympics before. This is a tough one. I would give the edge to Maxime here simply because not only is he higher seeded, but this is home turf, and there's just going to be a tremendous amount of support from the home crowd. So I would have to pick Maxime in this matchup. The next matchup is Matias Sabo versus Yusuf Al Shamlan. Let's see if these guys have fenced each other before. So they have fenced before, and oh my god, Matias beat him 15-2 the one time they fenced. This is not super recent, but I would have to give a pretty sizable edge to Matias here. First of all, Europe is a harder zone than Asia is, and I think that because of this and the fact that Al Shamlan has never gotten a medal before at any FIE event outside of the most recent one of the Asian Championships, this you have to give the edge to Sabo here. For these two, again, there's no indication of which one of them was. Neither one of them has ever been to the Olympics before, so this is a really hard match to predict. I would tend to give the edge to Patrice here for the same reason that I would give the edge to Pianfetti over here, simply because in this case, Patrice has a huge amount of support from the home crowd. Next one, Heathcock against Park. You have to give the edge to Heathcock here. Bauer students tend to do extremely well at the Olympics while Bauer is coaching them, and Colin won 2 of the 3 Grand Prix this year. There's no way that I'm giving Park the edge in this match. The next one, Shen and Gallo. I'm not sure that these guys have ever fenced each other before. Let's take a look. These two have never fenced before. So Shen being ranked 24, and Gallo being ranked 11th. That's a pretty sizable difference. Again, neither of these guys has been to the Olympics, so I would assume here you're going to have to give a bit of an edge to Gallo. Gallo, by the way, fun fact, means rooster in Italian. Next, Ferjani and Guban Gill. Let's take a look. Yeah, I know these two have fenced each other before. So last time they fenced was a long time ago, and Gu won 15-13. This is, I think, on paper, a closer matchup than it appears to be. Faris tends to have the style that works really well against someone like Gu. His parries are crazy, so if he's having a good on day, then it's going to be pretty difficult to hit him. Gu, however, has been to the Olympics before. I don't think Ferjani has, but let's just double check that. He has been to the Olympics once. All right. So I'm actually going to go ahead and give the edge to Ferjani in this one. Although Gu's experience may carry him through this bout, but I think it will be Ferjani here. Gemishi and Eli have a little bit of a storied past. Eli once lost to Gemishi 15-14 on a red card for false starting that I personally did not think that he deserved. The last 2 times they've fenced, actually, Gemishi has won, but they have not fenced any time recently. And Eli has just been... He's been a little bit inconsistent. He hasn't done as well as he has wanted to at any Olympics so far. And I have a hard time believing that someone who's going in seated as highly as he is going to miss out on a chance to get a medal against someone who has beaten him the last 2 times. I'm sure he's been thinking about that quite a lot. So I'm going to give the edge to Eli on this one. And now going down to the bottom half of the bracket, the first matchup you have here is Osamu and Evan Giraud. Giraud used to work at Orleans with Bauer, but I don't think that he does anymore. In order to qualify for the Olympics, he actually won the African Zonal Championship, which is pretty good. But I think you kind of have to give the edge to O over pretty much anybody else. So we're going to say that O wins this match. Next one, Yoshida and Paktaman. Let's see if these guys have fenced each other before. They have not. So right now, Paktaman has a slight edge in terms of seeding. Has Yoshida done an Olympics before? He has. And let's see, has Paktaman done one before? He has, and he's done better than Yoshida in the past. So even though I think we have to give the edge to Paktaman on this one. Oh my goodness, this is a difficult matchup to predict as well. Appetit has Bauer as a coach, as I've already said. That tends to mean that people do better at the Olympic Games. Sudmari is also coming in off of an injury and is going to be a total wild card here. Between those two things, I have to give the edge to Appetit. Marfa and Silagi. Silagi is the king of the Olympics. He has won 3 of the 4 Olympics he's attended. He is currently 16-1 as a win record at the Olympics. I think that even though some people have said that he's getting a little bit old, he is still the favorite, despite the fact that he is not seeded as highly as some of the other people on this list. So for that reason, I've got to give the edge to Silagi here. Next, we've got Samele and Shaul Gordon. I think you have to give the edge to Samele here. He has been to, I think, 3 Olympic Games, maybe 4, and he got a silver medal at the last one, even though he hasn't been having the best season and has been having some back difficulties. I have to give him a sizable edge here. Now, this next one is a fascinating bout from a psychological perspective. So, like I said before, you don't really know how well someone will deal with the pressure of being at the Olympics. And there's a little asterisk to that. That asterisk is the person who wins European championships has already been through such a high Olympic type pressure situation that you have to assume that that person is going to do pretty well. And we already said that Pancho Paskov beat Alexei Yakomenko when he came in as a qualifier from that zone. Last Olympics, I predicted that Teodosiu, who was fencing Karatoli at that point as well, would win because he came in after winning the European zone. And if Yildirim was fencing anybody else, I would say that he was going to win this match. But I'm sure that Karatoli is furious that the last time he went to the Olympics it ended so quickly. So I know he's going to be fighting hard here. However, because he hasn't shown that he can deal with that pressure well, and Yildirim already has by qualifying for the Olympics through the insane gauntlet that is the qualification tournament, I am going to give the edge to Enver here. Muataz and Amer, there's no way for me to know how this kind of matchup works out for the two of them because they're teammates, and so you can't predict dynamics like that. Let's take a look and see if they have fenced each other in the past. The last 2 times they fenced, this was in the finals of Asian championships recently, African championships recently. I forgot about that. So for that reason, I would actually give the edge to Muataz. I think that generally when someone loses a bout in a situation like this, especially the finals of a championship, You just think about that so much. And anybody who is a real competitor who just hates losing will understand the feeling of just knowing that that person beat you last time and studying really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So going into the Olympics, even though these guys are teammates, unless there's something I'm not aware of from their matchups in practice, I actually am going to give the edge to Moataz here. All right, the next one we have Fotuhi. I'm sorry, Fotuhi and Bozadze. This is similar to the situations that I've mentioned before, uh, except where someone coming in from an earlier round tends to do well against someone who has not fenced yet. However, in this case, we know that Bazadze does well under the pressure of the Olympics. He got fourth at the last one, and he's currently number 2 in the world, so I have to give him the edge here. All right, back to the top. So we've got my prediction of Datella and my prediction of Pianfetti. If this matchup happens, I would give the edge to Pianfetti here, because quite often when somebody upsets a seed that's much higher ranked than them, they don't tend to be able to do it a second time. And if this happens in this case, it was my reasoning that the reason Pascual would win here was because Ziad was not as used to the pressure of the Olympics as Pascual was, having already fenced one bout earlier. So I would have to give the edge to Pianfetti here. So let me just make sure I'm not wrong about that. Wait, I am totally wrong. He's totally been to the Olympics before. All right, so I apologize. I have to give the edge in this case to Ziad then, because we know that he handles himself well at the Olympics already. So in that case, this is going to be a harder matchup to predict, because these guys may not look like it, but they fence each other all the time. They're both coached by Vincent Onstedt, and so they have fenced each other quite a lot in practice. I would have to give the edge still to Pianfetti here. I think that the power of the French crowd is going to carry that a long way, but we'll see. Next matchup is between Mathias Sabo and Sébastien Patrice. I think that the last time these two fenced each other was at European Championships recently, and Sabo lost 15-12 or something. Yeah, so these guys tend to go back and forth. Although Sabo's lost the last 2 matchups they've had. Again, like I said, when you have lost to someone in this situation before, you tend to be thinking about it quite a lot, and I think I have to give the edge to Sabo here, just because, like I said, I think that he will have been thinking about this quite a lot, and I'm sure that he has a good game plan against this opponent. Heathcock and Gallo. I think the last time these guys fenced was at World Championships in Milan. Let's take a look. In that matchup, Colin lost, I think it was like 15-10. Let's check. Oh, so there was another matchup more recently, and Colin beat Gallo 15-12. This one is tricky, but I think that because Colin coached by Christian Bauer, has had higher ups this season than Gallo has. We're going to give him the edge here. Ferjani and Dershowitz. They've only fenced each other once. It was in 2020, and the score was quite close. I have to give the edge to Eli here. He is the higher seed, and he won the last time they fenced each other. Not that that means all that much in this case. O versus Paktaman. O tends to be pretty good at dealing with people who fence athletically, who attack a lot in the first zone. So simply for those reasons, I'm giving the edge to O here. And in this other matchup, I have to say Silagi because I would really like to see another matchup between O and Silagi, especially at the Olympics. I think that would be so much fun. So hype. For me, this is going to be a Semele victory here. I just think that he has a better toolkit to be able to, I just think that he has a better toolkit to be able to deal with the stuff that Yildirim knows how to do. Semele has proven that he can deal with the Olympic stresses really well. I think that's going to go to him. This next one, I think the last time these guys fenced each other, Moataz won in Orleans. Is that right? Yeah, the last time they fenced each other was in Orleans this year. It was a close match, but Moataz ended up winning 15-12. That's a tricky one. Moataz clearly knows what he's supposed to do against Bazadze, but again, in a situation like this where the person has beaten you once already, I think that Bazadze is going to really be gunning for him here, and the factor that he has Bauer as his coach, I think is going to take it over the top. But Moataz did give me a shirt, so that's got to count for something. Hopefully the power of friendship carries this one through. Now going into the quarterfinals, I have predicted Pianfetti and Sabo make it to the quarterfinal in the first quadrant. If that match does happen, I really want to see it because that should be super fun. So let's see if those two have fenced each other before. Oh, goodness. So we're going to give a strong edge to Matiash here. Oh my god. Ouch. So we're going to give a strong edge to Matiash here, not just because he's beaten him many times before, but he's beaten him many times twice in France with the home crowd backing Pianfetti, I'm sure. So I'm going to go ahead and give the edge here to Sabo. So we're going to put Sabre right there in our first quarterfinal. The next one we've got is Heathcock and Dershowitz. These two, I think the last two times they've fenced has been pretty back and forth. Oh, that's a good smile. Ugh. So, the last two times they've fenced, Colin has beaten him. But, again, Eli is a to-the-bone competitor. I'm sure he's not happy about the fact that he's lost the last two times they fenced each other. He's been thinking about that quite a lot. I'm sure he's going to go into this bout with a different approach for how he wants to fence him if that does end up happening. Oh, but at the Olympics, Bauer people are so strong. Heathcock is so hot right now. Hmm. I'm actually going to come back to this one. Oh, God. So they just get really hard from here, huh? So, mm, I don't want to be a Silagi fanboy, but I really think that he can win the whole tournament. Looking at the bracket that he's got, he O has not been fencing super well recently. O has not been fencing super well recently because he is recovering from an injury, and Silagi hasn't been fencing particularly well recently either. Let's take a look at their matchup. I'm going to give it to literally just the last person. These guys have a back and forth matchup, so whoever won last, I'm going to just predict that they're going to lose here. So O won last, so I'm going to give this one to Silagi, because these guys just tend to go back and forth. It was a coin flip, sorry. Silagi wins this one. And the last one, Samele and Bazadze. I don't know how these guys do against each other. I have to assume that Bazadze has a winning matchup here because Bazadze has a winning matchup against everybody recently. Samele beat him recently, like really recently, at the last tournament. I'm giving the edge to Samele here for that reason. He beat him extremely recently. Bazadze hasn't been showing the same kind of consistency that he has been in the past, although again, as a Bauer student, he also gets a bonus point for that. I'm going to give the edge to Samele here. Oh, God, they're making me choose on this one. Okay, so I think this is the hardest one to determine. Mm. Why? Can I just flip a coin? Is that allowed? So Dershowitz won a while ago, then Heathcock has won the two most recent ones. Eli tends to perform really well in championships. We don't know how Colin's going to do, but Colin gets an extra point because he's Bauer. So Colin's got a winning matchup recently. He's won 2 Grand Prix recently. Eli's high ranking, or higher than his ranking, is mostly because of his result at World Championships, which was longer time ago. I'm going ahead and giving the edge to Colin here. So now let's see. Sabo. Sabo. I'm going to see if he has ever fenced Colin before. He has, but it was not recent, so that doesn't really mean anything. Oh, that's the wrong one. So it means even less than we thought it did. So he's never fenced him in a tournament. Hmm. You know, I I think most people would give the edge to Colin here, but uh, oh God, these last couple matchups are so hard. Skip. All right, at the Olympics, we know what happens when Silagi fences Samele. The last time they fenced each other in the Olympic final, unfortunately, Samele looked like he had no idea what he was doing, not because he's not a good fencer, but because just Aaron is so mentally strong at the Olympics. So we're going to give an edge to him in this one. And we'll move Samele into the bronze medal match. Coming back to this other one. I think you have to give the edge to Colin here. Colin has just been fencing too hot recently, like I said before, and that means we're moving Sabre into the bronze medal match with Samele. Alright, so now that we've gotten this far, the bronze medal match, I think the last time these two fenced each other, it was a victory for Samele in Padua, but it was a close match. 15-11, 15-10. So these guys don't fence too often. When they do, Samele has a really good matchup. I'd like to give this one to Matias because we're friends. But I think I'm going to give this one to Samele just because he's just been so consistent about beating him recently. Samele with the bronze. And then the last prediction. Oh my god, if Aaron wins 4, that would be unbelievable. But we worked our way all the way up here, and I think I have to give the edge to Silagi again. I think it would be really cool if Heathcock won, not only because he's an American, but because he has just committed his whole life to this. Most Americans don't do that, but I gotta say, I think that your winner here is going to be Silagi again. We'll see how everything goes tomorrow. Thank you for listening to my stupid opinions about these things, most of which will probably be comically, hilariously wrong, and I look forward to seeing those things get ripped apart in the comments after the Olympics happens. And again, I'm just wrong about everything, but thank you for tuning in, and hopefully that was an enjoyable way to spend the last 40 minutes. Happy watching, guys. I'm really excited to watch the Olympics. Ciao.
And last but not least, I'd like to thank my Emerald and Platinum patrons, David Amrani, Jonah Atkinson, Tiffany Miller, Roman Bruce, and Veronica Saran for their very generous contributions to this channel. Any other names you see are gold patrons. Thank you guys so much for the contributions. They really help out a lot and will enable me to make more videos like this. If you have any more ideas for what you want to see next, you can vote on those things on my Patreon page. To help support the channel, you can find links to my Patreon, PayPal, and Venmo accounts in the video information. Thanks guys, see you next time.